uncurl his lip.
Come in.
When he clapped eyes on his penultimate interviewee, however, he immediately reassessed his prior judgment. Ms. Cuthbert didn't look as if she lacked a backbone. In fact, she looked boiling mad, as if she were about to explode. She hid it well, but he'd spent too many hours working with troubled youths not to recognize the signs. The glitter in her eyes, the colour high on her cheekbones, and the flared nostrils. Even if it was all tucked away beneath a polite smile. He stared at her, and his shoulders unhitched a fraction. She might be a lot of things, but he was suddenly certain the one thing she wasn't was meek and mild.
Mr. D'Angelo?
He kicked himself forward from behind his desk.
Yes?
Pleased to meet you. I'm Neen Cuthbert.
She strode across to him, hand extended. It was bright red, as if it had recently been scrubbed to within an inch of its life. He briefly clasped it and then stepped back. She wasn't wearing pantyhose, and her knees were bright red too. It wasn't her hands or her knees that held his attention, though. Her dove-grey suit sported 4 equidistant paw prints, 2 on her thighs and 2 just above her breasts. No amount of scrubbing could hide those. For the first time in 2 days, he found himself biting back a smile. When his gaze returned to her face, her chin went up a notch, as if daring him to say one word about those paw prints.
I'm pleased to meet you, Neen.
He kept his voice even, and some of the glitter eased from her eyes. He pursed his lips and then shook his head.
I suspect your afternoon has been as stressful as mine.
A flash of humour lit up her face.
Is that obvious, huh?
She glanced down at the paw prints, her lips twisting.
It has been something of a trial, she allowed.
Please, take a seat.
He motioned to a chair. Moving back around his desk, he stabbed a finger to his intercom.
I know it's going above and beyond, Lyle, but could we possibly have coffee in here?
Coming right up,
she shot back cheerfully. To his mind, the other 2 project managers took thorough advantage of their shared secretary. Rico didn't see coffee-making as part of Lyle's duties. In this instance, though, he was prepared to make an exception.
That was kind of you.
Neen's glance was direct.
Truly, though, you didn't have to do that on my account.
He waved that away.
You may not thank me once you've tasted it.
It wouldn't be café standard by any means.
But, to be perfectly frank, I could do with a hit of caffeine.
I take it your interviews aren't going well.
He stiffened at her question, realizing how unprofessional he must appear. He shifted on his chair, fighting a frown. He'd let his guard down. He couldn't remember the last time that had happened. He shook his head. He needed a holiday. He shook it again. He didn't have time for a holiday.
It's hardly surprising, though, is it?
She said, obviously misinterpreting the shaking of his head.
You want a highly qualified and experienced restaurant manager, but the wage you're offering is hardly attractive.
And yet you applied.
She pointed to her file on his desk.
As you'll have no doubt ascertained from my resume, I'm not what you'd call highly experienced.
And yet you still applied.
And you decided to interview me.
Okay, she definitely had backbone. She might not be cheerful and earnest, but she definitely had backbone. And that trumped cheerful and earnest any day. At least for this particular job. Lyle came in with 2 steaming coffees. After she'd left, he asked,
What happened?
He gestured to the paw prints. He made it a vague gesture because he didn't want her to think he was checking out her chest. He hadn't been going to ask, but her criticism of the wage he was offering made him dispense with the niceties. Besides, he held those paw prints entirely responsible for his momentary lapse. If he found the answer to their mystery,